Ready.
Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today is November 4th. Howard, what did you have for lunch?
I had a falafel already, Ivan. What do you mean? Shalom, everybody. Let's get to it. I'm in Tel Aviv. Ivan's in San Diego.
Yes.
And it looks like a beautiful morning there. And it's 5 p.m. here in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I love it. All right, let me share my screen. And this morning we have another gap to new all-time highs. I think it's kind of normal at this point. I mean, there are two scenarios. Either we see early buyers taking some profits and like a slight pullback, or we see people who are underinvested just try to chase in an attempt to catch up. So the S&P is at new all-time highs. The Nasdaq 100 is at new all-time highs. Small caps trying to catch up. It seems they're finding some resistance here near 159, 160 again this morning. So the major move so far today, I think, comes from oil. Oil is starting to perk up, and also China. Quite a few Chinese stocks are trying to catch up. You know, a big gap.
Yeah, last week I said Baba was breaking out. I got stopped out. Now I'm put a little bit back on here this morning.
Baba, I mean, it's
JD,
which looks decent on several time frames. I think it has a room to go to 35, 36. I own a little bit of that. Alibaba is just continues to consolidate near 180. I think it's still acting constructively. I own this one too. NTS, I also own this one a little bit, breaking out to new.
That looks to be the strongest.
Definitely the strongest among the, but there's so many. If you just open a screen with all Chinese stocks, they're definitely outperforming. So it's all about China and energy. And also, of course, semiconductors. Semiconductors are the new undisputed leader, gapping near all-time highs. Just don't chase the ETFs.
I wouldn't chase semis, but the Chinese stocks look interesting just because they've been basing for 3-4 years.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why I'm saying that we might see a catch-up there because many of them have been hurt significantly. I mean, let's take a look at Momo, which is the Chinese Tinder, trying to break out this morning. And this is, look at the weekly chart. I mean, it's not looking amazing, but it's kind of trying to clear a base here. BZUN, which is the kind of the Chinese Shopify, also not looking bad. I mean, that's not a bad setup here, trying to clear its 50-day moving average. So there are quite a few interesting setups in China.
That's probably the strongest because it's digesting these great gains. So that's the Shopify you're saying.
Weakness I see this morning is still in software stocks, by the way. So I think look at Twilio. It's kind of trying to test the lows from last week. Let's take a look at Shopify. It's not looking amazing either. So definitely software stocks are kind of continue to be the weak link yet in the market, especially the ones that have led for the past 2 years. Semiconductor, they just, I mean, everyone knows about the semiconductor trend, and that's why we're starting to see those upgrades and gap ups and stocks running higher in anticipation of strong earnings. And Qualcomm, they're reporting a couple of days. Chip, they also report soon. So people are starting to anticipate those. Moulin, I think that's an Israeli-based chip company.
Yeah, good call. Okay, and what's showing up in our list? Just a quick.
So Google's on the top. It's looking amazing. Had a breakout last week, then pulled back to its rising 20-day where it's
so the it's kind of like the way I read the report, because I'm long, is that they're just doing what the hell they want. But the market, boy, that the numbers were not good. And I said I say that, they're based on expectation. Numbers are good. It's just based on where the expectations were. And now here we see the stock threatening to break out. Didn't really pull back at all during those earnings. They bought Fitbit. Uh, they, between Android, Fitbit, Google Home, they're right there with Apple. Depending on who you trust and whose products you're used to in Google. So Google's right there. If it breaks, I think it could easily run 100, 150 points with the market. If it can close strongly above 1,300, I wouldn't. It's been held back for 2-3 years, so I wouldn't be surprised. And I'd probably add to it on a close above 1,300. Okay, back to the list. And I say that because, it just didn't sell off. Okay, Guidewire, that's a stock I don't follow. And
yeah, both Google and Amazon basically went up after missing earning estimates, which it's an indication of how strong the market is.
What's this Guidewire?
It's some software company just basing, trying.
Software for the insurance industry. Looks great. What do we got on a weekly? Yeah, beautiful.
Here we go. And the other one is the number 3 spot on the list, on the Momentum 50 list. Keysight Technologies is a 5G place. Just keep.
Oh, so it's a 5G company. Okay. So if you look at Verizon and AT&T, same thing. So the 5G companies, semis, 5G stocks like Verizon, AT&T.
They're just basing, basically.
Some of the semiconductors, but still at the top of their range.
But anything related to 5G, okay, NVIDIA. And most of the chip stocks continue to outperform. Definitely the new leader along building material stocks. They're also very strong. And also biotech.
Yeah, Amgen, I mentioned Amgen hit all-time highs yesterday. I own a few shares. I mean, that's just...
after the big run, you'll probably see some type of consolidation or pullback. So
no, because if you look at a weekly, it's been going sideways for 4 or 5 years.
Yes, I'm just saying from a swing trade perspective after a stock.
Yeah. But from a trend trade perspective, I mean, here you've got a stock. I mean, the growth isn't great, but I feel like we're in this spot here where I think money's not coming out of the market, Ivan, and it's rotating into like just comfortable brand names that people feel won't implode. And Amgen just seems to be one of those companies. It's not cheap, but it's the most recognizable biotech. And it doesn't seem like the numbers are that explosive at all, but trading at 15 times earnings, and people are putting it on the sheets, so it's a pretty strong breakout. So it feels like that's what's going on, right? Like we're other than the semiconductors, but money wants to stay in the market, and they're just rotating it around.
Absolutely, because and it's not just software that has been kind of weak, relatively weak lately. It's been restaurants and retailers. So, I mean, that's why we call the bull market of stocks, because it's a low correlations. We have both uptrends and downtrends. Look at McDonald's testing. It's already 190.
80 stocks. I bought some this morning, Ivan. I think the news was kind of known. He had been in trouble a while, but they pulled the plug on the CEO today. But that's a pretty big move over the course of a month for this stock, and we'll see if the selling continues. Listen, it is the guy was president of the United States, so I don't think the stock
Of the United States. What do you mean?
Oh, the CEO was fired today.
Yeah, but what you said, president of the United States?
The guy taking over McDonald's ran the U.S. McDonald's
operations. Oh, okay.
So they're not bringing in some outsider; they're bringing someone off the bench. So the sell-off feels pretty overdone, but all the restaurants now have been getting hit. Okay, I'm going to clean myself up. I just wanted to get something on the books for us. Anything else that stand out to you?
One last thing. What's your take on Nike here? Try to stabilize near.
Had a great run again. Like I own it. I sold a little up there in the mid 90s after the run it had from the 80s. But I'm not. I think with the CEO change, that's a little different to me. That company, with the CEO change, which I wasn't expected. They brought in a good CEO, but at the same time, I haven't read enough about them and haven't had the time to spend. It's one of my top 5 positions. So I don't need to add to it on a 5% dip. If it was a 20% dip, that would be something. But they seem to be executing really well. And if you don't own any stock, this is this trend line here can be a nice place to add a few shares to get yourself started. You have any thoughts here, Ive?
I mean, I tried to buy them last week. I was stopped out. Maybe I'll try again this week. We'll see.
Okay. There's not a lot of pin action in this stock. It's just kind of for old timers like myself. Okay. Have a great week, everybody.
All right. You too, Howard.